In 1873, Jyotirao and Savitribai Phule founded the Satyashodak Samaj, the Society of Truth Seekers, to fight against landlordism, Brahminism, and the bureaucracy, and towards the imaginary utopia of Bahujan Samaj, or collective of the majority. In the same year, Jyotirao Phule published Gulamgiri, a seminal text that rallied against slavery of Dalit and Bahujan peoples, to struggle against which he and Savitri Bai set up schools for the education of girls and children from Dalit and Bahujan communities. A few decades later, a young Dalit boy, Ramchandra Babaji More, a resident of the port town of Dasgao, which was near Mahad, itself known for its proximity to Raigad, the capital of the Shudra king Shivaji's Maratha Empire, would benefit from the growing sense that education was necessary for the pursuit of freedom. A member of the temporary industrial workforce in Bombay, and later a card-carrying member of the CPI who became known as a red star in the blue sky, he would bring to the notice of Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar the crucial issue of the lack of public access to water in Mahad. On 20th March 1927, Dr. Ambedkar, along with approximately 2,500 Dalits and a few upper caste comrades, would utilize rights conferred by citizenship to drink water from the Chavdar public tank, until then denied to the Dalit community owing to the abhorring practice of untouchability. Thus began the first civil rights struggle in India, one which gathered renewed force in 1956 with Babasaheb's adoption of Buddhism, and then again in the 1970s with the founding of the Dalit Panthers. Although inspired by the Black Panthers, this revolutionary lineage was already a century old. For Gulamgiri, the text by Phule was dedicated to the black people of America, whose recent freedom from enslavement had been an inspiration for the Satyashodaks. The anti-caste movement in India then has been, from its very inception, global and universal. It is perhaps to emphasize this at a time when we witness genocide against Palestinians, an ongoing war against Iran, and everyday violence against minorities in South Asia, all in the name of development, for the extraction of natural resources and the deracination of labor, that the observatory, consisting of Ujjwal Kanishk Utkarsh, Frida Robles, and Thomas Crowley, curated the exhibition Revolutionary Remembrance in Mahad last year in the week of Manusmriti Dahan Diwas. As the world celebrates Christmas, lakhs of people gather in Mahad to remember the burning of the authority that legitimates oppression. We take strength from this multitude. As we approach the centenary of the Mahad Satyagraha next year, we have gathered here today with Vikrant Bhise, Diwas Raja Khatri, and Aban Raza, 3 of the 12 exhibiting artists, to hear from them about the work they do with their communities to dismantle structural oppression and their reflections on the meaning of solidarity today. Our guests need no introduction, and it is an absolute privilege to be in conversation with the commitment to dismantling the very structure that affords us the privileges to be here together in this room while others continue to be excluded. Vikrant is a Mumbai-based visual artist whose artistic practice weaves civic resistance in the present with key texts and figures from history, spanning poetry, literature, and songs from the annals of Bhim Geet, and iterating his commitment to the revolutionary spirit inherent in Ambedkarite consciousness. His solo exhibitions include Human in 2019 and Sense and Sensibilities, a reflective realization in 2024. Recipient of the Lalit Kala Academy National Award in 2018, the Bombay Art Society Award in 2018, and more recently the NDTV Masterstroke Emerging Artist of the Year Award in 2026, his work has been exhibited widely in India and internationally. Diwas is a Nepal-based cultural worker, curator, archivist, and researcher whose practice combines archival inquiry with community-centered methodologies focusing on labor, gender, queerness, and the politics of the commons in South Asia. His work has been exhibited internationally, and as head of research and archives at the Nepal Picture Library, he has led projects such as Dalit, A Quest for Dignity in 2016, The Public Life of Women in 2018, and The Skin of Chitwan in 2019. He is also guest professor at Kathmandu University School of Arts. Aban Raza is a Delhi-based artist whose work raises fundamental questions about the lives of large minorities and working majorities, and asserts the right to protest and to exist. Her solo exhibitions include Luggage, People and a Little Space in 2020, There is Something Tremendous About the Blue Sky in 2022, and Nothing Human is Alien to Me in 2025. She has curated several projects with Sehmat and received the Asia Arts Future Award from Asia Society India Centre in 2024. Before we begin, I'd like to encourage an interactive session, so please do share questions and comments in the Q&A box, which will be located on the bottom panel of your screen. We will open up the discussion to the audience after the conversation. Please do also keep an eye out for relevant links and references in the chat box throughout the talk. We also have with us today the curators Ujjwal and Shrida of the exhibition, who are both part of the artist academic platform, the Observatory, and are currently pursuing PhDs at the University of Applied Arts and the Academy of Fine Arts, Vienna, respectively. We do encourage you to direct questions to them too in the Q&A. It's a real pleasure to have all of you here. And before we hand it over to the speakers, I'd like to invite Shrida to say a few words about the exhibition.
Hello, Radhika. Thank you very much. And thank you, Vishal and the ASAP team for their work and for making this talk possible. So as Radhika mentioned before, the three artists that will speak now were part of the invited artists for the exhibition Revolutionary Remembrance, which was curated by us, the Observatory, an academic artistic collective based between India, Austria, and Mexico. The first iteration of this exhibition series took place in December last year in Mahad, also commemorating the burning of the Manusmriti by Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar. The exhibition formed parts of the artistic research project commemorating a revolution yet to come, through which we examine the politics of remembrance in contemporary aesthetic and political discourse. In this exhibition and the overall project, Dr. Ambedkar's words resonate with us. The wheel of revolution has turned only half. There can be no revolution without turning the wheel fully. We shall turn this wheel fully round. So now I would like to invite Vikrant to speak, and thank you very much.
Thank you everyone for having me here. So little bit I will speak about the Mahad. Mahad is the place. It's in Maharashtra. It's in districts in Raigad. Raigad is the part like Mahad is the part of the like oldest part as a Buddhist period. Like we have seen there Buddha-Kalim Lenis, caves is there in like 225 BC. That place is is very active for on a Buddhism period. And then you can see the after Maratha Empire, the Shivaji Maharaj was also like Raigad is their Rajdhani is there, you know. So when the Shivaji Maharaj made their one house in Raigad, so same time he made one house for himself in Mahad also. So these all place like Mahad is the historical place, of course. So and we can see there are a lot of lakes are there. Not only the Chaudhar Thara, there are multiple lakes are there. Like I can say the Hapus Lake, Karar, Ketki, Rumali, Sambar, Vireshwar, Kateshwar. So these kind of lakes used to there, but why Baba Saheb Ambedkar choose the water revolution for the Chowdatar? Because we have this. I'm just researching those things when I started researching and working on Mahad Satyagraha's work. So that Chowdatar was the biggest lake in Mahad, and you can see there are four gates in that a lake, you know. So and that lake is middle in the whole Brahminical area is surrounding that area. That's why there is written in one book. That's why people said more in Chaudhar. Chaudhar means tasty because that surrounding places in Brahminical people used to stay there. You know, so Babas had chosen properly that place for the Satyagraha when started working on not only Mahad Satyagraha, but I have seen the many, like I'm working on various kind of Dalit issues, then I have seen these kind of subjects are not going to teach in our curriculum in education system. When I see when everybody know the salt revolution, uh, but when I started researching those things, then I realized this is the first revolution thing in India, because we are the like 3,000 years old slavery, and that's why Baba Sahib Ambedkar he started fighting opposite society and upper class people. When Baba Sahib Ambedkar he was in abroad to learning. So Lala Lajpat Rai was saying, "Ke, Baba Sahib, you have to be a part of the Indian स्वतंत्र की लड़ा में you have to be participate." But Baba Sahib said, "Ke, yeah, I want to participate, but I'm more keen about my society because they are British was like they took 150 years उन्होंने हमारे देश पे स्वतंत्र ये किया है तो we are 3,000 old slavery, so I want to I want to fight there, so Baba Sahib started, and he took Karuni Sabha and all. They took many like Anand Chitre, Kamlakal Chitres, Surendranath Tipnis, Bhanudas Kamre. Then RB Comrade RB More is the one of the important part of the Mahad Satyagraha. So you can see, I can say lot of thing in Mahad. So there are many things to talk about the Mahad Satyagraha. With plenty of books are there, but see now people are studying, people are researching. That's why we are understanding about this subject. One I want to share one more thing, because see I was reading somewhere, and when the Mahad Satyagraha is happened in 1927, there are only three newspapers who publish this news, like Times of India, Free Press, and one another is there one more paper is there. So Free Press and Bombay Ponical. So there are three papers only give a chance to this news. But we can see this kind of politically and socially how casteism was there and still also there. And same time when Mahatma Gandhi did a Dandi March, that time they got a huge coverage of that Dandi March. Even in our syllabus also, we have seen a lot of many evidence about the Dandi March and all that thing. But in Mahad Satyagraha, there are very less things in our education system. So now people are studying, people are researching about the Mahad Satyagraha. So I always said Mahad is the first civil right struggle in India. So that's why you can see the first image of Dalit Panther. So after like the Mahad Satyagraha is one of the first struggle of the Indian civil rights. So after that we have a large, huge one movement was happened in 1970s, the Dalit Panther movement. So of course they are founded for the because of the so many atrocities was there at that time, and there are three poets and literate people. They started Namdev Rasa, Ravi, Raja Dale, and Javi Pawar, who started. So see that time also in 19. Why I'm using Dalit Panther, because there are many things are missing in particular community. There are no any evidence. There are no any brochures. There are no any posters. Are there? You can see the Black Panther movement. There are a lot of huge posters are there. There are huge like uh, pamphlets are there. Magazines are there. But in in this period in India, in Dalit Panther period, there are very less kind of art and all things are not happen that time because we have to keep this like the mainstream people they don't want to give this access for the lower caste people. I think because I am also researching those things in that era. Because when I start I'm researching these things, so I always found there are something missing in even the art field also. So I always draw whatever I want to draw. So I choose that Dalit Panther. That typo is there. So like Dalit Panther is the like I was the part of that. Like I'm the part of this movement. That's why I paint some this kind of thing. And you can see there are one man is drinking water. So this is a original image in some in old photographs are available here. I am not. It's in India's photograph, but yeah, I think this is South Indian one photograph. So I use that image for the make this work. So you can see there are multiple type of works I have done in in Mahad Satyagraha. There are this is a small work of watercolor and how Ambedkar is. You can see the masses, whole bold stroke I have painted, and you can see the very thin line, the common people I have painted because that you know Baba Sahib Ambedkar, why he's a very bold lining because he was educated, and you can see the other people they are very thin line. I have draw because they are poor people. That's why they are very thick and thin line, thin and thick. That's why you know that's why Ambedkar did a revolution, and of course, there's those also people go forward, and they will also build their own life, own education, and they also get a like broad life. That's why you can see the thick and thin line. Ambedkar is the thin on a thin line, and common people are in common people is a thin line, and Ambedkar is a thick line. You can see their head is that's a Mahad Lake. See, there is the work of 2023. There is one incident was happened in Rajasthan. There is one 9 years old Dalit boy, Indra Kumar Megwal, who had died after being beaten by a teacher for drinking water from an upper class pot. You know, so that time I have made this painting in on oil painting. You can see there are the houses are there outside uh, the lake. Then you can see the downside. There are one pot, and there are one Brahmin. Brahmin is going, and so Brahmin is standing, and then common people are standing there, and you can see there is Kabir, Buddha, and Mahatma Phule. So, any incidents I always speak about that era, like this work is I have done in 2020 Again, this work I have made for the Sehmet work, Sehmet show that curated by Gigi Sakaria in 2024. So I always give importance about the Mahar Satyagraha because why I'm making a plenty of works of different ways in Ambedkar and this Mahar Satyagraha because I want to explore those things because this kind of work is not happened in last 70s and 75 years. So I want to spread as soon as much as I can paint I can spread this story to everywhere. That's why I make always this kind of subject and trying to show in different way. Again, I have made that Mahad the first civil rights and struggle of India, but I have this time I have showing the one of book of on Mahad. Then I'm showing there one pet like dog because that time like animal can drink water, but the upper class people don't allow to drink water in Dalit people. So, and Ambedkar is very fascinated about the pets, dog. So that's why that intentionally I have painted this painting. This is recent work of my we who could not drink. This is based in Dalit culture or Dalit movement. In like you can see there is a I have painted Gandu Bagicha. It's a poem of Namdev Dasa. It's a real place in Mumbai in Kamatipura. So and I always very keen about those laborers who work in main hole works, and you can see in now also we can see in metros areas in Mumbai also there are the water pipes are going in inside the gutter, So like after 75 years also we are very poor about those systems. We have to provide the water, but that water is also not going in a safe way. So this work is very detailed work, and I'm showing the garbage and pipes are so many pipes are going on inside the garbage, that water pipe, and those all labors. They of course they are coming from specific community. They are coming from Dalit community. So I want to show that things, and this work is participating in Berlin Biennial this year. And you can see here the third canvas. He's the performer. He sang B.R. Ambedkar's Bhim Geet, for the revolutionary guy. He's cheering the people to educate, agitate, and organize. There is one more important incident in Ambedkar's period. Like after Ambedkar died, there are huge struggle of Namantar. It's in Marathwada, Namantar. That Marathwada University. Then people want to give a name of Ambedkar, but who wrote the Indian Constitution? But we have to give 18 years for that fight. So this subject was missing in whole structure. Why I'm telling this? Because whole when I started reading or researching, but there are in Indian art also. I am not seeing anything about these things. When I see the Renaissance painting in Paris, in Louvre, and everywhere, Renaissance period painting, huge war paintings. But why? See, basically, I like to paint a huge, large murals. So that all coming from that Renaissance painting. But I have seen the 40 feet, 60 feet large, huge paintings in Renaissance period. So then I started realizing, yeah, we have a lot of subject, but we have to show that things. That's artist does work that only artists they have the like as archive things. We have to show our period in via painting. So that's why I started painting these historical incidents. So I have painted this large, huge canvas in like 10 feet by 16 feet. You can see down there as Pochiram Kamre is a very important figure in Ambedkar right movement. This is the large, huge mural, this 6 feet by 40 feet. I have shown there last 75 years how we are changing and how 25 years, how the communities got arrested. Like first frames, there are Ambedkar. You can see there is second frame is a farmer protest. Again, daily struggle are happening. There are UNA is there. Then CNRC, the Muslim women are there. You can see he is the man of Peshwe Kalin who hang matka in their neck and broom in their backside. There Una is there in Gujarat. Then again Manipur women are there. Then labor again. Then there are many incidents of when Dalit Panther was active. So that time also one incident has happened in Charisgaon that two women got they drink water in upper class people. Well, the two women got like nude day उनको पूरे गांव में से घुमाया गया था. So this whole incidents I have made in 10 panels. So last 75 is what we seen in India. So that's whatever I see that I have painted. This is also I was the eyewitness of this incident, Black Dot on Constitutional Republic Public, because 1997 I have seen the atrocity of Ramabai Colony. Ramabai Colony, it's nearby my house. Like I stayed in Vikroli and nearby Ramabai Colony is in Ghatkopar. So I was the eyewitness of this firing. Of course, everybody know about this incident, but when I started researching those things, then I realized there are many cases are still pending, like after 25, 26, 27 years. So I started painting these incidents, you know. See, this also my second or third painting on Ramabai Colony. So I always paint, and I'll always a reminder to people or aware to the common people to what is happening. You know, you can see here the Vilas Gogre is there. Then I'm forgetting his name, but yeah, so you can see there are portraits of 11 Shahid who got killed of in police firing. So there are huge number of lakhs of people every day come in 6th December in Mahaparinirvan Din in Mumbai. So I always when from my childhood I have seen this event from very closely in my eyes. So this how this incidence is like power. Like this event is give you power every year. So you can see when you guys also go there and see this. I can say the longer, like you will get the free food, you will get the huge number of books from uh, uh, place, uh, various places in India, out of India. People come there and publications come there and they sell the book of on Ambedkar and other subjects also. See, this is the one small kind of work I have made, like this kind of gathering we not to celebrate, but we people come there, the Dalit people come there and they give a pranam to Ambedkar. So I'm going to make a huge large mural on that work is on going on, because I want to include more things, because year by year this thing is going very strongly and very rich condition. You can so I want to work. I'm always research, like I'm researching from last 2 3 years. I'm recording, I'm taking videos and photographs, how this moment is changing and all. So in this painting also I have shown there are multiple portraits of, like you can see there is a Lakshman Man in right side. He took his book of Upra, and you can see there is a his backside there are donkey, like he whatever he write about the Upra on that marginal people. You can see there next to his hand, there is a Namdev Dosa is taking, holding his book of Golpita. Then you can see his Dalit Panther, Suvarna Varsha, like 50 years of Dalit Panther is hold, Zavi Power is standing here. Then here, that Daya Power is standing here with the Balut. Raja Dhale is standing here with his book. Then one of my friend Suraj Ingre is taking his book of caste matter. So these figures give us confidence to fight, you know. And now I'm sure seeing the last 2 3 years there are many young people who are very come forward, and they are going abroad. They are going different universities. Some rappers, some singers, performers. They are coming forward. Painters. and they are started making, and they are using this subject like Ambedkar right movement. And yeah, this movement is taking place now. I think there are huge figures, many events is going on inside hospitals, medical camp, then jalsa is happening. Yeah, I'm showing this last work. This actually, when the Rohit Vemula got a suicide. So I have given a name of this subject is like painting. Your dream are still alive with us. So this room is his hostel room, Rohit Vimala's room, and I have seen like somebody share with me that hostel room where he hanged himself, and there was one fan was there, and there is one flag, the that flag he took a uh, suicide itself. So I removed that fan. You can see there is only hook. And but you can see there are portraits of Ambedkar, Perumal is there. Sorry, uh, Ambedkar, Savitribai Phule, Kabir, and many more people. So I want to show here also the water. This water is the Chaudhar water, because not only the Rohit Vemula, but last 5 years we have seen the many scholars was suicide, like Rohit, then Payal Tadvi, then Solanki was there from IIT, and many more. So that's why I want to show that room was full into in that Chaudhar water. That water is remind me always, like after 100 years also, that water remind me every time when this kind of atrocities happen. So that's why I have painted that room is full with Chowdhury water. I think this is the last painting. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Radhika, first of all, for organizing this event and inviting me to be part of this conversation. Uh, and I would also like to begin by thanking Frida and Ujjwal for, in a way, gathering us and making it possible for us to visit Mahad and sort of experience the place and the history in making in Mahad. And of course, thank you, Vikrant, so much for the incredible work you do and for giving us that introduction to Mahad history. And along with other artists who are not here today, I would also like to thank Aban, who will be going after me. Some of the comments I will make today um, were rehearsed with Aban and others while we were in sporadic conversations we got to have in Mahad. Um, and yeah, Aban's been a kind of an interlocutor through all of this. So I would like to thank her as well. So what I'll be doing today is I'll be reading out a short piece that I finished writing only a couple of hours ago, actually. But I chose this format because Frida and Ujjwal had also separately asked me to write something on revolutionary remembrance, and I thought this could be uh, maybe perhaps a draft towards that. My comments will be a little bit improvisational. I'll be riffing on particularly this one image of Uma Devi Badi from 2007, which was exhibited as part of Revolutionary Remembrance in Mahad. And I will also try to stay within the frame of the title and what it means, what it might mean to remember revolution or to practice a revolutionary mode of remembrance. And I come to this conversation as an archivist of images, as someone seeking ways to speak about history and to develop historical methods grounded in photographs and visual records. And I draw on the work we have undertaken at the Nepal Picture Library around archiving Dalit pasts, but I won't be presenting the work itself today. And of course, I speak from Nepal, so I come to Mahad from some distance and from a place where the Ambedkarite movement has not necessarily been a central force in organizing anti-caste politics. And yet I feel the pull of Mahad's unfinished demands strongly, even from here. Marx saw revolutions as the key to understanding modern history, and that has certainly been Nepal's experience of modernity. The anti-caste movement here is entangled on a terrain that has witnessed multiple successful events that can veritably be called people's revolutions, with the most recent eruption happening just a few months ago. Nepal is a place where history has repeatedly opened itself to being remade, and yet ours is not a story of triumph. We have moved from one post-revolutionary moment to the next without giving lasting forms to the enormous energy, collective hope, and new political identities that have emerged again and again. Radical desires have crested and broken, collapsing back into the very arrangements they sought to undo. So, even in success, the problem of fatalism persists. The melancholy, the quietism, the nostalgic retreat that so often settles around revolutionary pasts. And this precisely is the challenge Ujjwal and Frida had set before us through their exhibition. And it is from within this tension between hope and despair, possibility and exhaustion, that I look at the photograph of Uma Devi Badi. The image captures the intensity with which Uma Badi, alongside others we cannot see in the photograph, asserted the demands of the Badi community, which is a marginalized Dalit group historically subjected to caste-based sexual exploitation and long denied citizenship, and they were demanding recognition as citizens. The photograph was taken in 2007 in the aftermath of armed conflict during the making of a new constitutional republic here in Nepal, and it was a moment when history made itself unmistakably visible as struggle. This is not an iconic image by any means, but it is deeply in tune with that moment of lived intensity. And it cannot be separated from the broader horizon of that time, from the convergence of forces on the streets, nor from the feminist movement whose protest language Umabadi reworked through her what is called the Petticoat Andolan. And yet, looking at this photograph now, one also senses what did not hold. The photograph belongs not only to a history of emergence, but also to one of incompletion, of aspirations that exceeded their outcomes. And perhaps even more sharply today, at another moment of political excitement here in Nepal, eager to produce the new while discarding the past, the sense of loss in this image intensifies as we find ourselves in a political present that imagines a future without genealogy and offers solutions that sit too comfortably within the very structures they claim to reform. And looking at Umabadi, I'm also reminded of Paul Klee's Angelus Novus, the angel of history that Walter Benjamin put to great use in his reflection on the past. I see almost a compositional parallel. The angel is caught facing backward, looking at the wreckage of the past, while being blown forward by a storm it cannot resist. And in Umabadi's gesture, perhaps more visible across the full series than in the single image, I'm inclined to see a similar collision of forward and backward movements. The act of looking back places all past victories and defeats into question once again, and the forward movement reminds us that so long as the march continues, the last word on the past has yet to be pronounced. The photographs to me hold something unfulfilled but charged, perhaps in the sense Benjamin describes, a startling encounter between past and present. And I wanted to offer this as something through which we might learn to live without illusions about the revolutionary process, yet at the same time resist becoming disillusioned. And having witnessed political changes in Nepal, I'm struck by how suddenly moments of rupture can emerge through an extraordinary alignment of human agency and historical circumstances, as recently as the Gen Z protests last year. As an archivist, it is perhaps these moments of becoming that I am um, drawn to hold in memory, political subjectivities carved as wagers on the possibility of liberation, kept available for renewal when the wager does return cyclically from one generation to the next, perhaps even ours, who are summoned to act on its share of redemptive power. On this occasion, as I reflect on the wagers made through Mahad that I wish to hold on to and foreground, three thoughts come to mind, which is what I will end with today. The first is that Mahad is an image of rupture, a breaking through onto the historical stage, a claim made on public space. And this dramaturgy of bursting, opening onto an open stage carries a particular vitality for those of us whose who move, whose work moves between holding revolutionary potential and its institutionalization within democratic life. And with Habermas's recent passing and renewed attention to debates around the public sphere, this feels like a good moment to return to this imagery of claiming the open stage. The second is the shift Mahad marks, particularly in Ambedkar, from reform to the logic of annihilation and abolition. And this abolitionist horizon is one of the most concrete links between Ambedkar and Nepal through his presence at the 1956 World Buddhist Conference in Kathmandu. There is a photograph of Ambedkar delivering his speech, Buddha and Karl Marx standing between and standing beside the newly and he's standing beside the newly coronated King Mahendra. And it is a striking image, one that gathers within it a series of tensions between reform and revolution, violence and nonviolence, authority and autonomy, and the contradictory pulls of which Ambedkar himself was navigating. The photograph stages these unresolved tensions almost too clearly, and yet against them, the horizon of abolition is newly articulable in the present as a possible politics, once again calling us to imagine life otherwise. And the third is the question of solidarity and its tragically checkered history. Mahad was also a moment that taught Ambedkar to be skeptical of solidarity. The history of revolutions is, in many ways, a history of solidarity's promises and collapses, of attempts to forge power from something that remains fragile and tenuous. And yet, if there was ever a moment to break this question open, it is now, a moment of open genocide and naked imperial domination, demanding that we place our faith in a solidarity capable of producing a politics adequate to our time. One that moves beyond moral gestures or the management of difference and draws clearer lines of struggle. So this is what I offer today as a revolutionary remembrance, not the commemoration of achievements, but the memory of what was risked, not a monument to what has been, but an image that hasn't expired, one that reminds us of what is yet possible. Thank you. And, I'd like to pass the floor to Aban now.
Thank you, Diwas. This was incredible, and you're very, very kind. Thank you, Frida, Ujjwal, and Thomas for inviting all of us. It was quite an experience and education. Thank you, Radhika and Vishal, for having us here. And, well, Vikrant, of course. Lal Salam, Jai Bhim. So I'm going to share my screen and start with the image that Frida and Ujjwal and Thomas showed. Is it full screen? Can somebody confirm? Because
yeah, now it is Aban.
Okay. So this is a painting on the Shaheen Bagh movement, which happened in Delhi against the NRCCA protests. And this is basically, it has elements which made Shaheen Bagh, where the women took over a highway and sat and protested against a law which was going to introduce religion as one of the criteria to allow citizenship in this country and to this country. There's a bus stop which became a library. There was this overbridge which had these banners which were hanging, and of course the very colorful shamianas. So the women basically took half of the highway, though the government would like us to think that they took the full highway, obstructing traffic, but that's not true. They did leave half of the highway so that people are not inconvenienced. And they made a stage. They had a lot of portraits of people, a lot of slogans, and it was a mahal of discussion, a mahal of protest, a mahal of singing, a mahal of well, jubilation, but also fighting, struggling, but also celebrating the idea of being equal. So this is the work that was displayed. I will move on to there's a series I did on the farmers' protest, again in the borders of Delhi. This I actually painted before I painted Shaheen Bagh. So, in tune with how the title of the exhibition, I sometimes wonder about memory and what comes first, what comes after. But this was being painted like in real time. So the protest was happening, and if I used to go there or participate and come back home, there, I used to then start working on a painting immediately. So this is the Tikri border, where a group of women were coming in and a group of women were going back to their village because it was a year-long protest. So there was this rotational system that the women farmers or the women in their farmlands had devised, where some were coming in, some were going all through the protest. So this is one scene where the women are coming in and everyone's exciting and everyone's cheering them up. And it's also something that a revolution is. It's something to be cheering and also be cautious of, but yes, but also to welcome with great spirits. This is again Tikri border. It's another group of women who have erected this tent in their tractor, and it's a night of singing, dancing, because you're cooking there, you're sleeping there, you're eating there, you've taken over the borders of Delhi. So it becomes your home of sorts. And then what I've found, which, it's only much later that you realize these elements that start to repeat, is the kambal, like how everyone is snuggling and sharing the kambal, which is also happening in the Shaheen Bagh painting. So these elements make it very warm and tender. This is the third painting. This is also the Tikri border paint. On that border, there were 3 borders that the farmers had occupied. This one was on the Republic Day, when the government had allowed the farmers to come into the city. And here, what we witnessed was that the citizens of Delhi welcomed all the farmers who were coming in. They were giving water, food. Again, there was a celebration, but of course, by afternoon, there was tear gas, lathi charge by the government. So this is one moment where they're entering the borders into the city. This is the second site. This is Singhu border. Again, it's people-less, but not really. There are these elements that you can see. But the next painting is basic. So what I've tried to do is paint the outside, and then this is the inside of the outside here. I don't know if you can see my cursor. I don't do this often, but anyway, I'm just going to go on. So there's this tent which has been put. I think I've imagined the connection, but I did see it while one was there on site. So this is it could be an imagined outside and an imagined inside, but it kind of gets the point of outside, inside. And then this became home. So I wanted to paint how one is, crammed and living, and they've made it their own. There's a toothpaste, there's scissors, there's chappal. Here, there's a dustbin right next to the head. There's a light arrangement. There were fan arrangements. Some people had doors. It was a 1-year-long struggle. So it became like proper. There was a television system sometimes. Quite incredible. Okay, so now I'm going to shift to another set, which is in some capacity, very small capacity, I'm involved with MKSS, which is Mazdoor Kisan Shakti Sangathan. Again, people's movement, it works on the ground, they work on the ground, they work with the RTI, they got the RTI, they also work with Narega and many other things. So here, this painting I painted in 2021, I think. So the first time I saw their work properly on ground was in 2022. And here I was just fascinated about how they were going around and mobilizing people. And this was a Panchayati Raj election yatra that they'd taken out. So they'd used this beautiful puppet, this very, very curious looking puppet that drew a lot of crowds. And through that mechanism, they started talking about how people should come out and vote, and how it's everyone's right to vote, and how particularly women should come out and vote, and what are the rights, what is one's duty. Also, don't take bribe, don't be corrupt, don't vote for the corrupt person who is going to give you bribe. So it was quite lovely, the whole yatra. So this is something that came out of that journey, which then I paint another painting with the MKSS very recently in 2025. This is my hugest work. This is this May Diwas, which is 1st May, Labor Day. And here, this is basically a mela for the workers, by the workers. So the workers themselves set up this tent. The workers themselves cook the food. The workers are basically celebrating themselves. So it's in a real sense, it's like a true celebration of Labor Day. And they have toys, they have food, they have skits, they have everything is happening. It's absolutely alive. It's so colorful. It's so bright. So in this painting, I have tried to capture things that also happened before the Mela, which is in these snippets of mobilization, where they walk through towns, they walk through the highway, they walk in groups. They walk through the marketplaces announcing that join us, ye hum sabka din hai ye. So everyone kind of comes here, and then this is basically something that when I saw it, I was just absolutely amazed at the scale of it, at the energy there, at the dignity also, at the dignity that everyone is fighting for. And it was present there. And then the Shamiana, again, very colorful, very bright, which was very attractive. So I came back and I think I was just like, ye to banayenge. Then this is another movement. This is the Maruti Suzuki workers movement, which since 2012, 18 July, when the factory was shut, when the police stormed and arrested 1,800 contractual laborers and I've written this down, facts, 546 permanent workers. And basically they had the workers had shut the factory, and then the police found a reason to come inside, and then they arrested the workers. So since then, every 18 July, they sit outside the DC office and they make the same demands every year. It's about waiting for justice. It's about people who were thrown out need to be taken back. So this is basically a scene from multiple years, not 1 year, where over years, I've been engaging again in a very small capacity, but still. So finally, I gained the confidence to make this painting where there are these snippets from many years put together, talking about the Maruti workers' struggle. And taking that forward is this work, which is the Maruti Suzuki Struggle Committee, which is a committee which was formed by the terminated workers of the Maruti Andolan. Essentially, the 546 permanent workers who were basically removed and blacklisted from the industry as a whole. So they never could find job, they could not support their families. They still, till date, are demanding that they be paid or they be taken back or they be given some kind of job. So this is a protest that they did quite recently, where they took over a street out in Manesar, where the factories are located, And they basically took over till the police again after 3 months removed them. But they were staying there, they were cooking there, they were eating there. And again, there was a rotational system that they were that they were observing, because it's very hard to be there all the time. So everyone, there was this organizational aspect to it, which was also quite encouraging and amazing. This I genuinely think we need to be talking more about it, so I've put it in the presentation. This is basically a painting it's a clip that went viral during the Delhi riots, where these 5 Muslim men were on the floor, and that there were these 2 policemen poking them. This is during the NRC-CA protest, so it's actually connected to the Shaheen Bagh movement, but it comes before the lockdown, right before the lockdown, when Delhi sees riots. So I've named it with the names of the 5 Muslim men, because it becomes important to know who the victim is, in a sense, because Faizan also lost his life. And the 3 out of 5 have, including Faizan's mother, are fighting this case by approaching the courts, but they're still waiting for justice. And so it's a sad painting, but it's something that we need to remember. And I would like to end this presentation with Palestine, because Palestine needs to be spoken about. It's in our hearts, it's in our minds, and maybe now Iran is, but so that's it, I think. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Aban. Yeah, and thank you, Vikrant and Diwas as well. I mean, I think it's a really somber note. I don't know how to actually speak about, when we do, and taking on from all of you, I think when we do speak of revolution, it's often in this very often romantic way, but I think it is a moment to remember that there is a lot of rupture and violence that gets suffered, and how do you find the hope, I think, in the midst of all of that to continue. Maybe I will start with a few questions that are pointed at each of you. I will, in the meantime, really ask the audience to, because we want this to be an engagement. I think that's why we've had everyone come here. So please do put in your questions, comments in the Q&A box, and the minute that happens, I think Vikrant, Diwas, and Aban would also really like to engage with you all. But maybe I'll start with something for Vikrant. One thing that has been very important has been, there's an intervention in histories of labor field, which even in written official histories, but even in the scholarship, often tends to neglect caste. And this goes back, right, then to the communist movement, etc. And this is, although most of the people who constitute labor are Dalit and Bahujan communities, and somehow that seems to get neglected. And I'm thinking also then the way Aban formulates it, right, as working majorities, which is Phule's emphasis also. So I was wondering, I mean, you come from a family of Dalit Panthers. You consider yourself a Panther yourself, and that in some part also gets created, no, because there has been such a neglect of caste, even though Dalit people were at the forefront of struggles, or working class struggles. And I was wondering if you can share a little more. I mean, you have touched upon it, but about how that legacy has informed your work, and how you hope, like, what is your hope as an artist to sustain the movement?
When I realized and when I started searching and researching about myself, then I realized how this movement is surrounding my, from my childhood. And those subject is not in what I am doing. Like as a painter, I have not seen this kind of subject in mainstream galleries or syllabus and Indian art. Of course, this is also part of the Indian society. This community is also part of the Indian society, but Dalit culture has their own identity. That they have their own culture. They have their own food culture. They have their own the literature, So why there are, like, I'm also searching, I'm thinking why this thing was not happen in last 50 years or 75 years. Why this kind of work is not going to show in last 50 years or 70 years in mainstream galleries or mainstream medias, Even when I paint that Mahad Satyagraha or Mahaparinirvan, nobody knows this kind of thing is happening in Mumbai. This kind of incidents is happening. This kind of event is happening in 6 December because mainstream media has not showing those kind of event. Then this community create their own some channels like Awaz India, and there are multiple channels. Then they started showing. Now, though everybody has uh, YouTube channels and Instagram pages, so everything is spreading very fastly. You know, but what I research that based in literature. What I read. Then I realized what huge Andolan was, Namantar Andolan, then Mahad Satyagraha, then Bhotmange atrocity like Khairlanji Hatyakand. That Hatyakand also, after 1 month, that mainstream media got take a interest in this like case. There are only one paper who published the news. That paper name is Samrat. That paper news give a headline of that atrocity. So this whole structure is coming from not now. It's coming from like many years. In that I've already mentioned, when the Mahad Satyagraha happened, there are only three papers. They only give small um news on that paper. That time Kesari was very huge paper that Lokmanya Tilak published that paper. But even Baba Saheb Ambedkar give a like ad दिया था उनको कि we are going to do a Mahar Satyagraha, so you have to you have to publish in your paper in Kesari. But no, not at all. वो छापा नहीं गया था. सो ये सालों से मतलब इज कमिंग फ्रॉम मेनी इयर्स एंड स्टिल ऑल्सो you can see there are very particular events focusing, not this like this kind of Dalit issues and all that things. कहीं ना कहीं this thing is uh, hiding, But now the world is very fast, and you will get information in 1 minute, in each and every subject. And mainly now, internationally, Ambedkar want so very internationally. Ambedkar is researching a lot in various universities. They have their own Ambedkar studies, So now all pressure is coming from there. So that's why we have to be like in India. So there are you can see the politics of now. There are parties are there. They want to now accept Ambedkar. मतलब उनको accept करना है, but मन से नहीं है. लेकिन they want to show that things, Ambedkar. Yeah, that vichardhara. They don't want to accept that ideology. They want to accept we are Ambedkar. There are many. One of my friends are there. They coming from various ideologies. They say always Ambedkar and that and this community and all that. But this is only for the Zaban pe hota hai, but that's it. So, of course, Dalit Panther is very important part of like my practice, because my father and my uncle is the part of this movement, and my family used to stay in Shivdi BDD Chawl, and that's whole area is the very fascinated about Dalit movement. So my father, when he was arrested in Nashik, so uh, he got to jail. So he was the youngest uh, activist that time. He is in 15 years old. So that he recently he told me the story. So he got a felicitated after he got in jail. So see, this moment nobody teach you basically. That's come from your blood. You know, मुझे किसने सिखाया नहीं कि what you want to do. But when I started reading and when I realized that this thing is happening and why this subject is not showing, why this is the part of the India. Why? So now why this subject is coming in mainstream galleries? Because see, first of all, you have to be firm and you have to very confident whatever you're doing, you know. And I'm very for whatever I paint that I'm very confident about that thing, you know. So I think yeah, Dalit Panther is uh, always give me a passion because they started revolutionary things in India. You know, that time they have did a huge number of when the Raja Dhale wrote the Black Independent Day essay of when the 1925 that 25 years complete of Indian independent. So of course Rajajal is also part of my family and he is also part of the Vikroli where I live now. I right now I'm here in Vikroli also. So this whole connection is surrounding me. In where I live in Vikroli and next station is Ghatkopar. Of course, the Ghatkopar is the part of where that Annabhav Sate is coming from that place, you know. So I always very fascinated of see if you keep your eyes open, you will get many possibilities. So yes, they are all inspiring me. These all things are always inspiring me, and that's why I'm fighting about why my painting. I always whatever I want to paint, I paint what is happening in society.
Thank you, Vikrant. I think, this is really, I feel, and I can say this, and I think a lot of us feel this. It's like we've just been gaslit. We turned adults and we realize the school system has totally cheated us.
Of course, school system means we don't know about the uh, literally. I'm coming from Marathi medium, so of course we don't know the Mahad Satyagraha. To lambi baat hai. That's a long thing. But never the Ambedkar. I only remember that one part of a story that is on Annabhau Sate's Smashanathin Sona. That's a Marathi that story. That only remember about in our syllabus. Otherwise, everything is missing. You know that education fault me. That always I said, see how this thing is in hammering in our mind because one day in when I was in school, that time I got information from somewhere देर आर वन लाइक रामदास अठावले आने वाले थे हमारे एरिया में रामदास अठावले he is going to come in my place that area but I listened very wrongly and I took that Ramdas Swami is coming so when we uh, like when we go to school, the first morning there are prayer of Ramdas Swami. See, there is no any uh, any bad negative things I want to say, but see what मतलब एक मराठी में एक ये एक वाक्य है कि जैसे जैसे जे पेरेल ते उगवेल मतलब जो बोएगे वो उगाएगा यू नो तो वो हमारे दिमाग में दैट थिंग इज हैमरिंग आवर माइंड सो दैट थिंग ओनली आई रिमेम्बर ओ रामदास स्वामी इज कमिंग टू नाइट इन आवर प्लेस like Ramdas Swami is like very like I was well fascinated. He took a kamandalu and that he's in langot and all that things. So when then Sham in evening I have seen there are Ramdas Atavale. So this, of course nobody teaches Ramdas Atavale. We teach us only Ramdas Swami in the school. वहाँ पे there are Muslim community students also there. They used to spray that Ramdas Swami ka mana sajjana bhakti santechi rave. See, we always enjoy those things. But now that Dharmantar, Hindu Dharma and all that things, those people did a huge number of like many things are happening of these things, you know. So yeah,
Yeah, no,
many things.
thank you. It is, I mean, I think I'm just going by this also, you know, that why, and maybe coming to Diwas around this as well, because one thing that we've been thinking a lot about, and I think also through conversations came up in Mahad as well. And what was really fascinating, I mean, I think Ujjwal and Frida, that, you know, the exhibition took place in the parking lot of the Smarak. Some of the first people who came to see the exhibition were children from R.B. Mori's school that he set up, and changing also the turn of, you know, who gets to access art, who are we creating art for. And I think Devas, if I can ask you, because what and this is thinking also in terms of missing archives, no, or how do you access these histories that have not been made available to us. And I, like with the NPL, you'll have a large methodological focus around family histories and oral family archives and oral histories, but I was wondering if you could say a little more about the Skin of Chitwan project, because there it really feels as if you've managed somehow to put the community at the foreground. So they are the people producing work for themselves. The gaze is not of the other, but it's really people are making art to be viewed by their own communities, which is a very different and difficult thing to do. So I was curious if you could say a little about that.
Thank you so much, Radhika, for the question. No, I think each project we've done from Nepal Picture Library has required its own set of questions and methods in some ways. And methods for us tend to be around and about how one can read images. I think that practicing that becomes very important for us with the kind of counter-historical archive and history building that we are attempting to do here. Because, as you said, like the materials tend to be, not there, not a lot available, and you have to make do with what is available to you. But yeah, I think with the feminist project, which is this other project we had done, there was a lot of material that came, that became part of the archive, and I think for that we had this sort of method of working with abundance of particularly the kind of like everyday snapshots that come from people's family albums, people's homes, and I think making a kind of an argument for a kind of a people's history of feminism that had allowed. I think the Skin of Chitwan, and I'm sorry you had asked me to incorporate some of those in my talk as well, and I didn't manage to do that. But Skin of Chitwan needed other kinds of negotiations. In fact, I think it was the most difficult project in some ways as well, partly because of the distance. And I think in terms of it was also a project that really tried to exercise a kind of a decolonial approach, decolonial kind of methods, but also as researchers really struggling with it. I think I wouldn't necessarily characterize it the way you did. I think you're being very kind and generous. I think having worked in the project, I'm able to recognize the sort of the real lacks and in some ways the failures of the project as well. I wouldn't say it was necessarily the community's work, because that would look very different to me. I think the way we have approached some of the subjects is that we claim access on the basis of this idea of the kind of a common struggle that we are all part of over memory, and the different kind of struggles over public memory. That for which that's how we enter some of these conversations. I think you had also asked about the gaze, in some ways the gaze of the other, and in some ways we were entering with as outsiders in Skin of Chitwan, which causes it wasn't therefore a project. I think with the Dalit project we had a lot more sort of collaborations with Dalit activists and NGOs and other kind of communities that really allowed us to develop it as also a kind of a community archive, which was not necessarily the case for Skin of Chitwan, which was about indigenous histories and this one particular indigenous group called Tharu that we were working with. And I think our approach has been different because of that. You might notice in the project that, in fact, what we chose to put in forward was a more evasive and more occlusive kind of approach. You'll notice that we don't show a lot of faces in that project. We enter this history primarily through landscape photographs. And the people you see are mostly turned away from the camera. And I think it was quite consciously done that way, that the way that we make certain claims about that land and that place and the kind of history that the place had gone through, that it's not riding on certain kind of representation of the community or expressions of identity. But I think the other approach that became very important for us in that project was really thinking about this question of gaze, which is something that you had asked as well. I think really thinking about what the camera is and what the camera does as a kind of a tool of power and as something that is part of the reshaping of that history, and not just the camera, but a lot of other kind of optical tools that come with engineering and surveying, all of that, mapping, from all of that was something that we were very wanted to bring to the forefront and sort of have a kind of a reading based on that, and as also people who are continuing to rely on camera as a method for making history. So you'll see that we were occupying a rather contradictory kind of position. It's about indigenous orientation in a particular space, but we are also trying to do that through the exhibition. You will see these microscopes and drone shots, very modern and optical regimes through which we were interrogating some of that history. So I think for us, it became actually, rather than avoiding the gaze, it became actually going deeper into really understanding the technicalities and techniques that are involved that come with the camera. And really, I think what has subsequently happened is really thinking about the role of camera in forms of colonization and how we might imagine decolonization of the itself as well. So I think, that's how I would characterize that question.
Thank you, Diwas. And I think this question of the gaze, because it feels a lot more. There's a lot more tension there with the camera, but it is also there in painting, and I think just to come to you, Aban, one is constantly struck with this, and maybe partly again there's a certain invisibilization of women in the workforce. Although we know that the workforce will not exist, not just because of reproduction of homes, but women are in the workforce, they always have been. And something happens in your paintings, and I'm not really able to articulate it very well, but it's kind of like the gaze, you're there, once, and maybe there is they're very intimate scenes, I think, of sort of, it's not being shown from the outside somehow, and you've kind of entered into that scene, and one is also seeing rest. I think you've taken us through sleep and the kamhal, sometimes also with, especially the Tikri border, women with this complete sense of independence almost, where there's no other male figure, which is quite phenomenal. And we don't have these histories of women who are laborers. So I was just curious about why you chose to depict paintings of the farmers' protest, and Shaheen Bagh, of course, but also what has really struck me, and I know we spoke about this at length in Mahad, is there's a sort of, all the movements that you speak about, right? Like the Maruti Suzuki movement, MKSS. Shaheen Bagh also, in some ways, which something has shifted, but it very much falls under the breadth of the Muslim question. Uh, how do you see these kind of divergent movements? Because it feels like you're asking for what we've been asking for, which is a left unity.
Wow, that is a wide question. I think I paint what I see, and to be honest, there's so much material out there, and women are everywhere in the workforce and streets, who are lifting, things to build a house, like they're lifting the concrete, the bricks. And if you travel through the farmlands, there are women working in the fields. So this idea that a farmer is a man is a bit bogus, especially in Rajasthan area where it's actually the women who are, carrying the weight in a sense. And then they're also doing things at home. Specifically about rest and sleep, actually, I've been also thinking a lot about it. When one is involved in any movement, there's so much of waiting around it. Even when you're doing a project, even in any kind of work, there is so much waiting around it. And what do you do in this waiting? Of course, the protest is a spectacle, and it's euphoria, and it's shouting, and it's devastating at the same time. It's contradictions. It's moving. But what happens before? What happens after? The amount of waiting, the amount of you're resting your tired self to be ready for the next day, or to be ready for standing again, demanding again, asserting again. And when you rest together, it's a different kind of rest. It's a as it feels, it feels it's more welcoming. It's more real, which is, well, not consciously. I don't think I was painting those things. I think I was feeling them more than painting with an objective. But once I painted them, I was just like, why are these elements repeating? And why am I only painting women? It's not like men also are not working in harsh conditions. Of course they are also. But with the women protest, I think I was just more excited about seeing women coming and taking over. Of course, I was also happy that men were taking over, but I was just more excited. Yay, for women. Just because they were there, as opposed to our idea of what a protest can be like or should be like. So there are many variations to a protest. I guess I choose to focus more on the women and what goes around. I think I'm more increasingly thinking about what goes around a protest also, which is rest, which is sleep, which is also not only in the protest sites, also in their houses, in our own houses also.
No, thank you. There are few questions from the audience, so maybe I'll just read out a few of them. One is for Aban by Ashutosh Ratnakar. Please share the experiences of drawing and painting at the location of protests. And then there's another question for Vikrant by Ashutosh. What's the inspiration behind your visual language? And from somebody else for Vikrant as well. I think it's a related question, Vikrant, so I'll read it out. The inspiration behind your visual language, especially the color palettes and dense compositions, would love to know artistic influences. But maybe Aban, would you like to?
So when I go to a protest site, not thinking I'm going to make it or paint it. So it's not the intention ever. At least when my younger self, it wasn't. Otherwise, it would be too extractive in a sense, which I'm again quite conscious of. I think, I hope I am. So I usually come back, and I usually develop a composition eventually. And sometimes it's not immediately. Like Shaheen Bagh, I actually painted after 2 years of the protest, though it was in my head. The Delhi riot painting where the five men are on the floor and the police party is there in the corner. That I paid because it was so depraved a video to go through it, to remember it, to it was actually haunting in a sense. So that I painted in 2023, so 3 years after. But that was also mostly, I think, for myself to process it, because something like that, I think, just really is terrible. And there are these other points where you're bothered by them, and then you keep thinking about them, and you keep visiting them in a sense, or they keep visiting you rather. So it's not like the younger self used to go with a sketchbook everywhere, and I wish I can find that again. And maybe for other scenes, like I've done a small series on the trains. There, I'm of course doing things in real time where I'm sitting, how I'm sitting, just because that allows you that space to. But protest side, I'm also wanting to participate. I go there to show my solidarity. I go there to participate in whatever capacity that the protest can allows me to. Of course, I am an outsider in most cases, but there's a sense where why should we not show our bodies, our persons there? So it becomes the question about solidarity, about standing with each other, about talking about that, and perhaps amplifying these voices through the tools that, well, I can paint, so I do this. So in that at that level, I'm not sorry to disappoint you, but not doing it there.
Vikrant, do you want to?
Yeah. So basically, the technique of my painting, of course, this all legacy coming from Indian paintings, Indian art. You can see the colors of from like miniature paintings and modernist painters. Then you can see the Amruta Shergill's paintings, the colors and that richness coming from there. And of course, there are number of painters who always inspired me, like Bhupen. Bhupen, why Bhupen? Because last, like we can, he is a real person. He did a work in an emergency time. Now the LGBT and everything is coming very open. But you can see the last 20, 30 years, before he had done work on gays and he has accepted gay as himself, that's very very brave work, So always he inspired me as a painter, and he that time also he has shown meal protest and all that thing that and he's self-taught artist. Even the Guy Patel also there. They are doctors. Then are what is her name? Anyway, so there are a number of painters who always inspired me, and that legacy coming from there. And of course, I'm finding that. But there are some missing subjects. See, techniques, colors are coming from there, but subjects, what I painted, that I was missing somewhere. You know, that story I have taken from my childhood or what I read in literature. And you can see there are various kind of work I always do, like watercolor. Then there are series of blue colors. The blue color is very important in Dalit literature, Dalit community, blue and white color. So always people used to taunt us when the Baba Sahib Ambedkar Jayanti or Mahaparinirvan Din. So today you are making what you are going to make in are you going to make a blue chapati? Are you going to make a blue rice? Are you going to make a blue, So these kind of things are always happening. So of course, blue color is fascinated like uh, ultramarine blue and royal blue. Always fascinated. So I have made. You can see that there are plenty of number of my series of work on blue series. So this is also fighting about this what they are thinking. I want to crash that thinking about with my work. And you can see the my huge, large murals. That of course I don't know about the Diego Rivera's painting before when I started painted huge paintings. But of course, I have seen that time. I have seen the Renaissance painting in Europe. That inspired me. But now many people always says that your work look like a Diego Rivera. He had done huge murals in Mexican muralist and all that thing. But of course, Diego Rivera's done huge paintings. But that work, of course, after all, this is all work did for the moment, you know. So of course, it's coming nearby closely because we all going in same path, same road. So it will coming mix somewhere. Sometime Degorevara meet me in the road. Somewhere Bhupen is meeting me. You know. So Miljut ke we have to learn and we have to go for the solidarity. So yeah, learning and of course I'm very fascinated about the drawing. So drawing is the key part of my painting, and Indian art is the key on a drawing. You can see the schooling of Bombay schooling, Bengal schooling. Yeah. So I'm coming from Bombay schooling.
Thank you, Vikrant. I think there
Thanks.
is this sense, in all of your work of it's a long journey, and we bring everyone with us. And I think
Yeah.
it is that sentiment of solidarity. We have one more question from the audience, and maybe Divas, especially in relation to your work with NPL, maybe I'll direct it to you. It's from Rizwan Khan. What should be the pedagogy for the art education institutions to encourage art students to work and explore socio-political issues like Dalit issues and others? And if I can just add, this is of my own, I think, conversation also that happened in Mahad. I know that you did mention that the group of activists in Nepal have decided to boycott Sharjah, and I was very curious if you can also speak about that.
Yes, I didn't get the second part.
That the group of activists that you work with have decided to boycott Sharjah.
Sharjah.
And
I think interesting question. I think I'll speak as because I also am a sort of a guest professor at KU. Maybe I can come from that place and speak about the strategies I have there. I think for my class, the thing that I try to undo mostly, and I think artists won't be happy to hear this. I think is this idea of a lot of artists speak about their work as something emerging from instinct or as a sort of like a question of expressiveness, expression. I think for my class, I think that's what I try to undo constantly. And the way I have been trying to do that is to kind of talk about how image, art, image making are in a way part of the larger struggle of the power, and that visual culture is also actually a crucial part of that struggle. I think what I've been trying to do is get artists and designers who are also in my class uh, to understand and see that whether they like it or not, they want it or not, or whether they know or they don't know, that what they make enters the way the public space or goes out there and actually becomes part of that larger struggle. In either that they either entrench power or they question and resist power. That it doesn't even just need to be the intention of artists for their work to do that. That there are other ways in which they get entangled in this process. So I think getting students to know or look at their artwork is also part of what Gramsci might call, that the war of positions and war of maneuvers. That the artwork and work is also actually part of that. I always start my class by reading Gramsci on hegemony and sort of cultural struggle over meaning. And I think that having that as a foundation for the entire discussions really helped in terms of having very rich discussions about artists' responsibility when it comes to, and I wouldn't even say politics, I would say the larger sort of struggles for the cultural meaning and cultural struggle which is why Gramsci is really great, because it comes from that kind of lens of cultural production.
It is. I mean, I feel like this is something that has become increasingly important as we think about artistic production, because, and I know Vikrant, you kind of touched upon it, that why are galleries interested now? How do we kind of prevent a certain appropriation while still maintaining a commitment to material change? And maybe we are running super out of time, but there's a last question that I feel is important to take. Um, and maybe I put it out, and if all of you would like to respond. It's from Pranoy. Thank you for these very thoughtful presentations. I wanted to ask a question in relation to the Shaheen Bagh protests. With Shaheen Bagh, there was a lot of ideological divergences. Some of the radical Muslim voices were disadvantaged and even criminalized. For instance, in case of Sharjeel Imam, what complicates the matter is as these positions were sidelined, while at the same time Indian secularism was celebrated, which ended up putting roadblocks into understanding the inherent Islamophobia nature of Indian secularism that was initiated by radical voices. So, when artists represent these events, how do they deal with such complexities of position, as often these complexities are not visible on the surface? Aban, I feel maybe you would be more suited to.
Okay. I think no, I think the idea is that you through the Shaheen Bagh movement and what it represented, the idea was to preserve dialogue, discourse, dissent. And now Shaheen Bagh was then used against the very citizens that were, trying to protect the constitution, which, by the way, I believe is something which is um, something in the making, meaning it needs to also be more inclusive and more, it needs to improve in a sense, it needs to be more wide. But that said, I think when the constitution was under attack, the first step is to protect it, no matter how contradictory, how problematic for some people it was, and it still continues to be. But not to say that the constitution is perfect. It's not. I think everyone, even Ambedkar, said that it has to evolve. Things have to evolve. Society will also direct it. So there are many aspects to it. To quickly answer, I think the Islamophobia that we are seeing has nothing to do, perhaps, with the Shaheen Bagh movement. In fact, I think Shaheen Bagh was that glimmer that said that, hey, we are equals, we are all equal. It's a matter of right. And from there, everything starts. Like some things are non-negotiable. And the matter of right, the matter of existence is there. Everyone's a human. Nobody is illegal. So these terms became very important, and Shaheen Bagh gave that platform for so many to speak. And I think in that spirit, Umar, Sharjeel, so many others who are now behind bars. This is the evil face of the state. This has nothing to do with the movement, or nothing to do with what the people were demanding, or nothing. And I do believe primarily that yes, it was led by Muslim women, but so many people joined in. And it wasn't only Muslim women. It was led by Muslim women, no doubt. And it will continue to be led if it happens again. Fingers crossed. But the point is that it wasn't only their struggle. It was a struggle of anyone who identifies to be human first, to be not even a citizen, just like a normal person. I don't know, like borders cannot be this rigid that, but how do you define a person? How do you define a human? And I think Shaheen Bagh was something that has been used against the people, used against the community. But I don't think that's our problem. I think we still should be talking about Shaheen Bagh, about farmers' protests, about many other movements, about Mahad, about Ambedkar, about um, workers' unity. So I think it's more universal, it's more global in a sense. And yeah, I think we need to keep the hope alive. And Tajir and Umar are really, and many others are absolutely amazing to be doing what they're doing.
Thank you, man. I think just kind of to last question for all of you everybody with, because I feel like this is the kind of, and maybe this is coming from all of your work as well, with Vikrant of Rohit, Aban of Azan, and I mean, Aklak, and the list will not end almost, with Diwas of Umabadi. And there is a sense in which this is only one of a very, very long list of people whose lives have been lost, I think. And I suppose the question is that how does one, in these moments of absolute despair, as artists, as a community of artists, how do you see in very practical ways what kinds of solidarity are you all seeking from each other, maybe what you are, and perhaps also what you expect of oneself as well in this sort of dual relation? If each of you can say a little bit about that, so it will help all of us, I think.
I guess I'm learning a lot, and this whole exhibition actually taught me a lot how to think together. So I'm grateful to the observatory and to everyone involved, and even the other artists who are not here, but to learn from each other, to be at it. It's such a long struggle, and it's not only about producing art; it's about being there, being involved in any and all capacities, and I don't know, participating in boycotts or structurally putting pressure in ways that you can. Especially with the Palestine thing, you just have to keep talking about it, no matter how much censorship there is. And Vikrant is doing it, Devas is doing it, you are doing it by using this as your platform. So I think we just have to keep using our platform, our tools, our conversations, our discourses. It needs to be around these things. And it's a very long struggle. So, yeah.
No, I think, no, I agree with what Aban said. And I think our assembly in Mahad was a case in point about realizing that there are friends along. That is, for me, it's also been important to think about the movements that we work on, movements we claim to be part of, struggles we champion. I think I find it important to also think about how big these movements are. That they are much bigger than us. They are much bigger than our lifetimes. That these are struggles that have been going on for generations and centuries in some ways. And that we are entering these struggles as perhaps at best particular kind of notes that help the continuity some of these struggles. And and actually reading David Graeber has really helped me, because sometimes he can make it seem like the struggle actually is so big in the sense that it's going on for 40,000 years. In fact, the quest for emancipation and liberation and so forth. That I think it helps sometimes to understand what our roles are. That very, very big and long struggle. I think that has helped me for sure. And I think what Palestine has taught me and taught us specifically is also that that it's not just about our positions, that thinking collectively what that has meant, as I've learned from the last 2 years, engaging in protest around Palestine, observing and becoming part of it, that we have to develop ways to think collectively about strategies and tactics, and understand that our actions have to come from that place, of useful tactics, which requires understanding particular conjunctures, what might be possible in those conjunctures, and really sort of it's not just about airing our beliefs and positions. I think participating in BDS specifically has taught me that, not because I necessarily agree with everything that BDS stands for, but I think it really has taught us what it means to fight together, with others, and what it means to act in solidarity, but also really thinking about strategies and tactics as the foundation for how we might think about victories uh, for ourselves.
Thank you, the best. Maybe Vikrant.
Radhika, can you please tell me what is the question of this?
How do you think of solidarity, I guess, or what is as artists? How do you create solidarity amongst within ourselves to really act together in the present moment? No, we it's it's a very it's a moment of despair.
Yeah, solidarity means we always speak about the what is happening in not only the India, in all over the world. I have done plenty of works on Palestine. I speak on Palestine, you know. So of course, uh, and Mahad shows also like a that's a very small, like not a village, but very small place. But that show was very uh, thrill show actually. When I see that show, and that time I was telling to Ujjwal to the show, same show you have to be keep in like a travel show with like various part because this kind of awareness was is needed for nowadays and main especially what interesting thing I have seen that in that show there are many school students used to introduce that subject, that's very important. So yeah, so that of course that's solidarity. Solidarity means that only. I think I can speak these things only.
Thank you, really, all three of you, Vikrant, Diwas, and Aban, and of course Ujjwal and Frida, and Thomas, for I mean just the opportunity for us to gather together in Mahad and eventually continue the conversation. I don't think that would have been possible otherwise. But yeah, I think we are really out of time. But I think maybe the takeaways is yeah, let's engage in BDS and continue the work somehow and whatever ways that we are doing. For the audience as well, thank you really for being here. And I know it's been very long, but we do appreciate. You will be able to see the entire video of the talk, I think, within a fortnight. We'll upload it on the website. And please do continue to look out for our coverage. So we will continue to engage with artists and also with the exhibition, the remaining artists as well as the curators. So please do look out for that. But thanks a lot, all of you.